Let's talk about a feeling. It's this nagging feeling, you know? It's incredibly common, but it's really hard to put your finger on. It's that sense that somehow you're falling behind in life.
You know how it starts. It's usually just a quiet little thought. It just kind of settles in. It feels like everyone else is just moving forward, right? You look around and they're hitting milestones, they're getting promotions, they're building these amazing lives.
And while all of that is going on out there, then there's you. You feel stuck. Maybe not completely. I mean, you're doing things, you're trying, but that feeling of being behind, it just hangs around. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly why that feeling pops up, even when you're making moves.
Okay, so first up, let's tackle the biggest piece of this puzzle. It's a game we are all playing, whether we realize it or not, the flawed comparison game.
Here's the thing. We almost never measure our own progress just by itself. Our brains are basically hardwired to look for a reference point, a yardstick, and almost without thinking, that yardstick becomes other people.
And this is where the whole thing falls apart. The data we're using for these comparisons is totally incomplete. We see the shiny stuff, the results, the milestones, the highlight reel, but what we don't see is the messy behind-the-scenes reality, the process, the struggle, the late nights, the moments of self-doubt. We miss all of that.
And this broken comparison game gets cranked up to 11 by what we can call constant exposure. Think about it. We're perpetually swimming in a non-stop feed of everyone else's progress reports. It creates this constant low-grade pressure, even when we're not actively trying to compare ourselves. So that's all the external stuff, but it's not just about what's happening out there. A huge part of this is about the perception tricks our own minds are playing on us.
One of the biggest culprits is something called attention bias. Our focus naturally zooms in on what we lack. So you might spend, say, 90% of your mental energy on the goals you haven't hit yet, and only a tiny 10% on everything you've already accomplished. It completely warps your sense of how far you've actually come.
And then there's the problem of shifting standards. Our own internal goalposts are always on the move. At age 20, you might be thinking, man, if I could just get a good job, I'll be set. But then you get the job, and by 25, it's like, okay, this is fine, but I really need that promotion. Fast forward to 30, and you might be thinking, wait a second, is this even the career I want? The finish line just keeps moving further away.
And the end result of all this is that something that once felt like a huge win starts to feel like the bare minimum. Your progress is still real, it hasn't disappeared, but because your internal standard has changed, it just doesn't feel like enough anymore.
Okay, so we've got the external comparisons and we've got the internal mind tricks. Now let's put it all together and reveal the actual system that is manufacturing this feeling behind the scenes. And this is the key insight. That feeling of being behind, it isn't random. It's not a personal failure. It is the predictable, almost calculated output of a specific system running quietly in the background of our lives.
So what are the parts of that system? Well, we just walked through them. You have that relentless, constant comparison, which is then supercharged by constant exposure to everyone else's curated lives. And it's all filtered through your own internally shifting expectations. These three forces work together, like gears in a machine, shaping how you see yourself every single day.
Which brings us to the most critical takeaway from all of this. Listen to this. You don't feel behind because you're actually standing still. You feel behind because the very ruler you are using to measure your own progress is broken.
So that leaves us with one final pretty powerful question to think about. If the entire measurement system is flawed from the get-go, then what are you actually measuring? Are you measuring your own unique journey, your own growth? Or are you just measuring the perceived gap between yourself and a curated, incomplete illusion? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.